Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we have some breaking news to discuss. Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, formerly of the Denver Broncos, has been traded to the Cleveland Browns for 2 picks. We're looking at a 5th-round pick and a 6th-round pick. To break it all down and the implications for fantasy football is none other than our resident Broncos fan. Joe, what do we think about this trade?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that Jerry Jeudy was ultimately traded. Was a little bit surprised and slightly disappointed with the compensation that they were able to get. Thought they might be able to get maybe at least a third, I was thinking, for Jeudy, but instead it's a 5th and a 6th-round pick. I guess it's the earliest picks the Browns had in those rounds, which makes me feel a little bit better. But, ultimately I think it's good for the Broncos and Jerry Jeudy to kind of get a fresh start.
Yeah, I think what hindered the Broncos is because they accepted that 5th-year option, and so because of that, that money is fully guaranteed. I want to say it's like around what, 13 million possibly?
Yeah, it's like 12.9.
Yeah. So as a result, someone acquiring him with that contract is pretty extensive. So as a result, it hampers what they can get in return, which as a result, we've seen this before. He's not as much of a veteran receiver, but we've seen before how that happens, where when you trade a receiver of any sort of type that's not a rookie, you're going to get pretty low compensation in return.
Yeah, it's interesting. I believe they traded a 5th-round pick for Amari Cooper when they acquired him from the Cowboys. So it's interesting now that they've used 5th-round picks to acquire a couple of these wide receivers. But yeah, I completely agree. The 5th-year option, the fully guaranteed number, definitely devalued Jeudy and got to this point.
And the problem with that is for the Broncos, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot, in my view. Had they traded him at the deadline, I think they probably, or even a little bit before when Sean Payton took over, I bet you they probably received better offers before this, and they just were like, well, no, let's hold on, which I can understand. Sean Payton's coming in. He wants to assess the talent of the roster, and so he wanted to give Jerry Jeudy a fair shake. Just so happens that, he didn't feel he was a match there and then decided to part ways.
Yeah, I think it was more so trying to give Russell Wilson a fair shake than Jerry Jeudy a fair shake by not dealing him. Trying to keep the weapons around for Russell Wilson to try to see, can Sean Payton and Russell Wilson work, and trying to bring everything at Russell Wilson's disposal just to see, if he had anything left could work in this offense. And then, the other part of it is, as far as now flash forward to the end of the season here, Russell Wilson's gone. Sean Payton came right out and said that Jerry Jeudy was the main contributor as far as Marvin Mims not being on the field enough. And now this clears that block, and Marvin Mims is going to get utilized a lot more.
Let's talk about that Marvin Mims, Joe. You went right in the segue to talk about him. I think this is a big, big winning opportunity for Marvin Mims. You talked about it at the scouting combine. He was asked about Marvin Mims, and he was like, look, we're the ones who held him back. It was us. It was not the player. And that he really just did well as a returner. And you got to remember, Sean Payton in his first draft for the Denver Broncos did not have a 1st or 2nd round pick, elected to trade up into the 2nd round to draft Marvin Mims. So unless he just completely botched the pick, he has some plans in the future for Marvin Mims.
Absolutely. There's a lot of plans there. In this wide receiver room, that Sean Payton said he wanted to shake it up, and it's now been shaken up. I'm expecting Courtland Sutton to be, possibly traded or even released by the Broncos. Obviously, they re-signed Tim Patrick. So Marvin Mims is definitely going to have a huge role in this offense moving forward.
So now you're talking about Courtland Sutton. Let's talk about him a little bit. Do you think it's inevitable that he's going to get either released or traded due to him really scrubbing? And players are doing this now with social media, but he completely scrubbed the Broncos. Seems to be Team Russ. I think he's good as gone. He's going to be gone in the next few days, probably.
Yeah, I don't know if you can look to the social media stuff. I wasn't even talking about that, but I mean, you're not wrong. That's definitely how these things kind of work out in this day and age. But I just think it just from a perspective of they can save plenty of money on the cap. Don't see them, re-signing Sutton, or getting him to some sort of a long-term deal. So I think it just makes sense. He had his since tearing that ACL and coming off the 1,000-yard season, he just had his best season with Russell Wilson, almost 1,000 yards. I want to say he had 10 touchdowns. So this is the most value he's going to have.
My question is for the Denver Broncos is what do they do now with all this cap space? Because I think they didn't get enough. You feel they, what you would have liked for them to get more. But I think from a Broncos standpoint, as a fan, you can understand that it's time to rip the Band-Aid off and really try to, just rebuild this roster.
Yeah, I mean, this is something they've been avoiding for a long time. John Elway always said, "Oh, it's not a, he hated the word rebuild, and it was just like a retool almost, and just kind of try to get better." But I don't think the rebuild is a bad thing. Obviously, move on from Justin Simmons for cap space reasons. A long tenured Bronco, never got to sniff the playoffs, unfortunately. But I think it's ultimately good. I think it's good to start getting some fresh new ideas in there, fresh new players. Because ultimately, let's face it, the Broncos have just been – that losing culture is just stinking up that locker room, and they need some, new freshness and some new belief in there that they can actually turn this thing around and start winning.
Yeah, I definitely think that Sean Payton is remaking the Denver Broncos into his image. I would not be surprised, Joe, although you might not like it. I think a wide receiver, Michael Thomas, if he gets released by the Saints, I think he could be becoming a Denver Bronco very shortly.
Yeah, as we've been calling it the Denver Saints since Sean Payton has taken over, that is a very possibility. I don't really like it that much. I honestly don't know how much left Michael Thomas has left to offer, and that's really my one concern. Just the Broncos have had trouble keeping guys on the field at this wide receiver position, especially, with guys like Tim Patrick going down in training camps. Jalen Virgil looked like he was going to be promising. He goes down as well. So now add a Michael Thomas in the mix, who I can't really rely on to stay on the field either.
So let's talk about on the Cleveland Browns side. For DeShaun Watson, I mean, he has no excuses now if he even had anyone before. Now he's got Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. Who knows what the running back position with Nick Chubb trying to recover from that injury. But Browns have a ton of cap space that they could go out and get a running back. This free agency class is rich for the running back position. So I know you're not a big Watson fan. Does this change anything for you?
I don't know if it does. Like you said, this eliminates any and all excuses for him. They have a pretty good offensive line. They usually have a strong run game, and especially, I know Nick Chubb, we don't know when he's going to come back, but if they acquire one of these guys in free agency, then there really is no excuse anymore with DeShaun Watson. And, push comes to shove, he hasn't played his best ball for Cleveland. And I think right now they're just fueling up that offense and really trying to get the best out of him and get the best players around him that they can.
I think it's kind of an interesting buy, to be honest with you. So many people are low on DeShaun Watson. So to me, it's there on paper. It should be there. And they could change that offense drastically. I mean, if Nick Chubb is not available and they don't have a good running back, they may be asking, which I don't know if it's a good recipe for success, but DeShaun Watson could be throwing it close to 50 times a game.
Well, he was throwing it a ton when he was in Houston. I mean,
I know.
That was his style. I mean, they were just letting him go ahead and use his legs and throw the ball and everything.
I think from a fantasy standpoint for Jeudy and just an NFL production standpoint, I don't think it's the best move for him, but I think it's a better move than him staying in Denver. I wonder what the implications are for the rest of their receiving room, but I think he needed a fresh start. I just don't think Denver knew how to use him.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton could have known how to use him, but it just, Jerry Jeudy needs to be out in space, and it's got to be a timing throw. Russell Wilson's not that type of quarterback. So I think with a quarterback change, but that's the other thing. I don't even know who the Broncos quarterback's going to be. I'm expecting them to draft a rookie. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping they don't bring in a free agent, but I do. I think for probably both the NFL standpoint and for fantasy standpoint, there's better potential for Jeudy in this offense with a guy playing alongside a guy like Amari Cooper in Cleveland than his situation with the Broncos.
I mean, for the Browns, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, this guy was obviously a first-round pick, drafted even before CeeDee Lamb was, which is hard to believe now looking back at it because of how good CeeDee Lamb has been. But you're taking a flyer on a guy for a fifth-round pick. I mean, Puka Nakuas don't grow on trees. So, to get a guy that talented for really not that much, I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, because I don't knock Jeudy's talent. There's no denying the guy can get open. He's an excellent route runner. I just think the Broncos, between bad quarterback play, not having enough creative offensive coordinators, has really just botched that pick and hasn't been able to put Jeudy in a situation where he can actually flourish.
Now, are you buying, selling, or holding Jeudy at this point?
Is it from a dynasty perspective or?
Yeah.
I guess probably holding him because I don't know if going to the Cleveland Browns is going to boost his stock enough where somebody is actually going to want to give up a decent amount to sell him. I don't know if I'd be necessarily wanting to buy him either, as I don't have that much faith in DeShaun Watson and his offense. Like, I was expecting bigger things out of Elijah Moore. Didn't necessarily happen. And I think they're both, Moore and Jeudy are kind of similar in, you need to get them in space and let them go out and make the plays. I do think, Jeudy's a more polished route runner and a better wide receiver than Elijah Moore. But yeah, that's probably why I'd hold him. For the record, are you by selling or holding Jerry Jeudy?
Hold as well.
Okay.
Hold as well. I don't think you could sell him or buy him at this point. It's just too early to see what's going on.
I agree with you there.
To me, the biggest loser is Elijah Moore. I think that this really hampers his ability to kind of take that next step in the offense. I know you and I both had high hopes for him, but now I feel, Njoku is obviously, I think he might get less targets, but he's going to still be relevant. Amari Cooper is going to be relevant. And now I think Jerry Jeudy is that guy.
Yeah, I think this really helps open things up for Njoku as well, because now you got two threats on the outside, at least name-wise and potential performance-wise with Cooper and Jeudy on the outside. And I feel like that should open up the middle of the field for Njoku even more.
So that does it for our reaction to the breaking news that Jerry Jeudy is no longer a Denver Bronco. He goes on to the Cleveland Browns, and time will tell if he will end up doing well. But I will say this, Joe, to end the show, you and I both agree on this. Go ahead and buy Marvin Mims. Don't listen to those out there saying to sell him. They're going to start using him a lot more. You can't look at just his rookie year.
100%. If people want to sell him, I'm rushing there to buy. I will go ahead and buy this guy because Sean Payton likes him, wants to get him more involved in the offense. Jerry Jeudy was stopping him. I really like Mims a lot.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about top 24 rookie rankings. You're not going to want to miss that. And until next time.